Well, one of us has to do something. Hello. Well, we almost had a guest today, but that slipped, fell,
That
something.
it was an email crossing thing that happened. It's no one's fault, and we will
No one's
get that
fault.
guest back on a future date.
Yeah,
But for today, you're stuck with us. So, did you
we're going
see
to talk
that Slim Jim
business
came by?
travel. What else we got?
Hi.
Business travel. We've got,
We're going to talk about business travel, like if it's back, if people want it to be back, if we remember how to do it, if it's even necessary anymore in the era of Zoom and StreamYard, among other things.
travel in general, too. And I think, who knows? Stuff to pack. We could talk about packing. Hey,
Oh my
Chloe.
God, packing.
Mhm.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gargone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show.
Boom, shakalaka.
Oh! So the funny thing is, I'm leaving for a work trip today to Spain, and I had placed like a foreign currency order so I could get some euros, and it didn't like come in time, even though I said I need it and stuff and paid the extra. So I don't. They're like, oh, it's out for delivery today. So now it's like, we'll see if I get it before I have to go to Spain.
So,
Hola.
hola, ¿cómo está usted? I saw Chloe's name pop up, so I will say I just received a long lost, poorly delivered thank you mail system gift from Chloe. So I wanted to say thank you. There's a nice, beautiful
Ooh, it's beautiful.
Viking wooden box, and inside said Viking wooden box is a Viking. It's very
A
small.
Viking in that tiny box.
It's a
Oh,
it's
you
like a
fooled me.
amazing runic journal kind of a thing. It's so cool looking. So thank you, Chloe. I will treasure it.
Ooh.
Although I've got to sort of break the feeling. I don't know if you've ever done this, where you have something that looks so cool, you're terrified to write in it. Oh, it smells nice too. You're terrified to write in it.
You're a book
So
sniffer.
I am a book sniffer. Anne Fadiman, from the author of the book Ex Libris, turned me on to the physical pleasures of books.
Really? There's a word for that, isn't there?
There is, and I can't remember what it is, but
Oh.
something. Hey, listen up, punk. You're traveling. You
Biblicor.
had
Biblicor.
Oh, okay. I'm
Is-
a biblical whore.
I like petrichor, which is the smell of wet earth when the rain starts to fall.
Oh, that's interesting. You're traveling. We
Yeah.
were just talking about, is travel back on and all that sort of a thing. I mean, look, we don't always get a choice, right? You've got an event you've got to go to, a gathering of the people.
That's about it. Yeah.
Why are we doing that still in a world that kind of is forced to accept Zoom? Why do we have to go in person?
So our team is more than half in Europe and the rest of us in North America. And so that just the time difference alone makes it difficult to schedule meetings. And not saying that we don't, because we do, but it's like we have to be a little more we have to be aware that we have people in different time zones. And so some people are getting up at like 7 to make meetings happen with people in Europe. So there's that. And so we do a lot more things asynchronously than we do via Zoom, for one thing. Another is that at least I find there's time in between actual work things when you're in person for regular conversations or unrelated conversations and experiences that create bonds and memories. And you don't get that with Zoom. It's like you're in, it's closed, you're out. You see nothing of the person's life that's not in frame. And it's very different than being thrown together kind of like on a smelly bus going somewhere weird, or like finding a dive bar after the meeting, or there's just a lot of things about it that make the experience, I think, more bonding in person, at least sometimes.
I think that so I was just at an event not that far from my house. It was like, a 40-minute ride, but a lot of people flew from Europe to get there in other parts of the world. One thing that I mean, you just can't replicate that thing that happens at meals. It's I don't know, the emotional chemicals that come out around food or something like that. The sense of, we've just all done a thing and now we're going to eat
Break
and kind
bread.
of, so I think there's something to that can't be replicated by digital travel. Even if you all bring your bag lunch to the Zoom, it's not the same as what kind of can happen at a dinner table. And I think that think that's one part of it. I almost never feel that way about the actual in the room experience per se. I'm not all that fussy about that, but I do think that I think that there are some great values for proximity. Beyond that, though, do you think? I'm curious your feeling on this. Do you feel like people's minds change when they are in another locale? Like, does your brain act differently in Europe than it does in the US or anything like that?
I think it does. There's a couple pieces to this. One is the piece you're talking about, which is you change the environment, you are kind of detrenched. And so it makes you a little more, can make you apprehensive, but it can also make you a little more open to things being different because you kind of don't know what to expect. So I think you get a fresh perspective that way, like change your perspective by changing your location. But there's also something to seeing people in person who otherwise are just, especially if you work asynchronously, just another like request coming into your email inbox or something. It's more than putting a face to a name. It's putting a face and a personal history and a few sticky bonding memories like in with those requests that come in later. So you kind of wrap everything in a layer of camaraderie and goodwill that didn't exist before. Oh, people coming into the journals. Carl says, I have a journal gave me when we were early in our relationship. It's still too nice for me to write in. That was more than 8 years ago. It still frightens me. And Chloe says, no way. Glad you got it. Surprise is still in one piece. So it was in a big wooden box. So.
Yeah, the wooden box protected the journal, and the packaging, which you so wonderfully did, protected the whole thing. There's even like little stones on it. I mean, it is a piece of art. I am sure. I don't know how they even stamped the bottom of it or something. Hey,
Buenos
Elizabeth.
dias.
Buenos dias.
If you came for Uval, you'll have to come back. Oh,
Hey,
Buenos dias. I took high school Spanish. I skipped a year.
Listen,
I skipped
where
a year
you're
of high
going,
school.
by the way, they also don't speak just Spanish. They speak Basque. So you're in.
Oh, well, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in high school, I skipped my junior year, like went from sophomore to senior. And so I went from Spanish 2 to Spanish 4. And I was in like a really high achieving class in Spanish 2. And the class that I like skipped to and joined were a bunch of slackers. So it didn't matter at all that I hadn't been there for the last year of Spanish with them because those guys were like barely doing anything. So I was fully caught up. Wow. Won't be enough for Bilbao, but it was enough for Spanish 4 in my high school. Kind of funny.
Good enough for Spanish 4. This sounds like you're reading the plot of the Machine, but swapping out some of the important parts.
Maybe. I keep skipping, like, yeah. I skip languages is the problem. Like I get into it for a little bit. Like I took 2 semesters of German, 2 semesters of Japanese. I learned a little bit of Czech. I just kind of like skip. And I never get deep enough because there wasn't really anybody to practice with. So then I'll stop. This is my sob story about why I didn't study languages in more depth. But I didn't study abroad because I was an RA and I would have lost my grant. So I didn't study. So anyway, I did not get the travel thing out of my system in college. I just studied a few languages, like at the kind of 201 level or whatever. And yeah. So now I'm just going to get plunked down in Spain and see how it goes.
Well, talk to me for just a second about that. Talk to me about the what makes your when you do travel, when you haven't had the chance to do it, in other ways. What do you try to get out of a trip, for instance, business or otherwise?
Even on a business trip, I make time to go and see something of the area I'm in. I don't just stay in the hotel. I've never done that. I guess I'm probably like for a US trip somewhere not that interesting. But anytime I've been in Europe, I've made an effort to get out and see historic sites, not just like old buildings, but to learn something of the history behind them. So I'll take guided tours. I'm big on guided tours. I get a lot more out of them. Even if I go to art museums, like arguably you could go to an art museum and take from it whatever you want, and it'll be a rewarding experience. But I like to have a guide that can explain kind of like the phase the artist was in when they painted it, or things like Easter eggs in the painting that you wouldn't recognize. And I'm a slow reader, so reading plaques is not an option for me. So anyway, what I'm looking for is a little bit of the flavor. So in the literal sense that I'll eat some food while I'm there, like not hotel food, and to learn something about the culture and the place that's unique to the place before I leave. So it's not as though I just pass through it without letting it touch me.
Nice. When I'm traveling, I'm horrible at it. I'm an absolutely self-identified worst traveler in the world. I mean, I went to New Zealand. It took me almost 20 hours to get there. I stayed on the ground maybe 20 hours and then went home. So I was like, oh, that was fine. There's so much to see in New Zealand. I saw the one thing I really wanted to see, and everything else would have just been a plus. Thank you. I went to Weta Works, and I saw the Lord of the Rings stuff. The Hobbit stuff. I watched. The best gift shop ever in the history of gift shops, by the way. But you would think that because these guys do special effects for movies and mostly nerdy geek movies. Business travel, though, I was just having this conversation the other day. It's funny how like we have kids, your kid thinks that when you go on business travel, you're like at the pool and hanging out and
Totally. Oh my God.
just really you room service every night, that kind of a thing. And it's like so the opposite. Like I've about 0 times in 12 years gone to the pool, except once I had a pool meeting at my Boston hotel, but that was it. Poolside, like we weren't in the water. So I was near water, which I don't know. Maybe that's worse. Like I was like 6 feet from putting my toes in the water and still.
That's pretty bad. Yeah,
So,
I brought my kids with me on a couple of work trips, but they weren't. It was difficult both times because I wasn't able to give them the attention they deserved, and I wasn't fully focused on my stuff. So I felt like it didn't really work for anybody.
Worst of all worlds.
Yeah, well, it sucks working all day, and your kids are like, "We went to the zoo," and you're like, "Dang, I want to go to the zoo." Anyway.
Yeah, I would trade that.
I want to go to the zoo.
When it comes to travel, what kind of tips have you picked up from traveling? I have a few, but what do you know from what's the good and bad of?
You probably know way more than me. What? So the good and bad of traveling well, I'm one of those people who doesn't like to check a bag. I will really try hard not to. I went to Australia for a couple of weeks, like 2.5 weeks, and I brought a tote and a backpack and booked a place that would have laundry so I could just wash the same 3 things the whole time. I hate checking. This trip, I have too many things that I can't really, I'm not going to check it, but it's a small roller. The difficulty of rollers being that if you're in a small plane for any part of your journey, they'll make you check it. So it sucks, but it's okay. The thing is, if you don't check, then research shows that you get out of the airport 30 minutes earlier, which is all I ever want. So that's one tip. Avoid checking if you can. Mm-hmm. And they're serious about the liquids thing to a different degree, depending what airport you're going to. Heathrow is very serious about it, evidently. So even if you're just passing through Heathrow, be aware they're going to take your eyeliner pen out of your makeup case and stuff. And so just be prepared for people to be really serious about it. I'm one of those people. I'm a researcher. So I research where I'm going, whether I'll need a visa, what kind of requirements they have for air travel there and whatever. So I'm fully prepared before I go. If you're not, because I know you don't do that, you'll still end up where you're going. You'll just be probably more stressed out.
I'm worried that I lost audio. I'm worried if it's me or everybody.
I hear you.
I suddenly can't hear you, but maybe it's just me.
I'll go away and come back.
But then I don't know what happened.
Here, you talk. I'll go away and come back.
Oh, well, that's one fun thing. Huh. Well, that's weird. Okay. Well, I think I lost audio. I don't really know what the deal was. Can everybody hear me still? Because maybe it's just my side. Maybe I just can't hear. Kerry just refreshed her browser, so she'll be back. The not checking a bag thing is important too, I think, for business travel. It's just so many chances to lose a bag. It is so frustrating. And I will share that there's I just heard that audio. So maybe I'm lucky. Let's check it. Kerry, you back?
New and improved.
Good. All right. So, thank you. So, beyond checking a bag, though, so one of the other things, I learned how to pack a bag from a company called onebag.org. I learned how to pack clothing in a way that you could put so much more clothes in one small bag. I think that's helped me out in my travel. The other thing is, and this one, it's gonna be so dumb, but I did it, and I think it's worth it. I use a checklist every single time I pack, and I've already pre-done the checklist. That way I don't do that thing that every human does when they get ready to pack, which is oh no, what have I forgotten? And as I go along, I figure out new things that I would have forgotten. Or for instance, my reading glasses, I pack an extra pair because I broke some at a marketing conference last year. I ended up having to, like, I don't know, Instacart or whatever it was, get some, and the guy bought me like old lady granny reading glasses. I was like, nice boy who selected my glasses. So I bring extra reading glasses, extra pens, anything extra that I think for sure I'm gonna hate if I don't have it. And then I try to minimize everything else, like the fewest amount of cords, the fewest amount of like underpants or whatever. Like I try to keep it. People do these crazy things where
You
they're
go
like,
front, you go back, you go inside out.
there you go. Like, some people pair like 2 pairs a day or something like that.
If
And
I can
I'm just
stay
like,
somewhere that has washer, dryer, or a lot, even like on site, if it's a hotel, I will do it, and I will pack very minimally and do laundry.
right.
I have no problem with that at all.
Cody's
You
got a good
mentioned,
point too. He does doubles, just so you don't have to take it in and out of your bag, so you don't forget it that way.
oh, I do that. I've always done that, and I'm a girl, so it's like, well, I'm a person who identifies as girl and like to wear makeup, so I have like a whole set of makeup that goes in the bag and stays there, and a whole set of toiletries that's just for the bag. So I agree. I'm always like kind of half packed. I think that's a good idea. Speaking of going to the zoo, my friend sometimes goes to the zoo for beers after work instead of to a bar. Creative zooing. That's interesting. Now, do the animals buy, or does he have to like bring for everybody? What's that look like? Cody wants to know your thoughts on who would be on the Mount Rushmore of rock from the 90s.
From the 90s.
Yeah,
Jeez.
the 90s. That wasn't exactly like, I mean, I don't know.
Linkin
Soundgarden,
Park, Incubus,
Jane's Addiction.
Pearl Jam, Jane's Addiction. That's a good one. Yeah. Oh, I like this one too. Cody travels like once every 4 days. I think it is.
Yeah.
A cool bag.
You do actually, well, adapters for one thing. So when I went to Australia, one set of adapters. When I went to Scotland and Montenegro, had to bring 2 different ones. Because they have one has a European style outlet and the other has like a UK style outlet. So that's a bit of a mess. It depends what you're doing. Okay. So traveling for work is different than traveling for fun, because you don't necessarily have to bring anything in particular except for whatever your personal device for that. But for work, like, you need a whole thing. So yes, a cord bag if you're traveling for work, especially if you're going to be presenting. If you're traveling to present, you can't rely on the place you're going to have the right adapters for your computer. You should bring them, because they might not have the right ones.
And then we can use our favorite word for presenting.
Go commando, Cody, like it's not any other day for you.
Don't take all my secrets. I was going to say that, my favorite word ever in the history of technology, bring a dongle. Because if you're presenting, it's amazing how many people like just presume that wherever you go is going to have exactly the cord you need to connect their stuff to your stuff.
And the worst thing is, if you don't bring one, then they'll be like, that's cool. We'll just run your presentation off our machine.
Back to drinking at zoos, Carl says that back here in DC, they sell beers at the zoo. It's like magic. It's drinking with pandas who are probably drunk.
That's actually really smart. I mean, just thinking of like the profit margin on alcohol versus zoo merchandise, it's probably a good call, except for the fact that then people probably become belligerent and reckless and stuff. So you got to put them with like the right animals and not with ones that, like, if you just eyeball them, will get aggressive. Because I feel like that could go bad.
I will say that as years go on, I'm more and more of a hermit. Like I'm not super juicy on let's just go anywhere, because I think that with regards to, well, business travel, you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah.
But pleasure travel, I mean, there's a few places left I want to see in the world. But I think that there's a lot. The minute I start thinking about travel, I start thinking about the commute to the airport, the amount of time I'm going to spend in the airport, customs, if it's somewhere overseas, and how fun that could be. And I almost never get to the part that's fun and exciting, because whatever. But
because you suck at traveling, you just sit in your hotel and do your work and maybe walk around the block. If you don't see the you're going to, the payoff is not coming.
But what I do think, I mean, I think we all do travel for our own thing. Some people want to see places. They want to, I need to see the history of a place. I really like traveling for some of the food. I love seeing what someone's going to make for a meal, not just at the restaurant to impress a tourist, but if I can ever get it like a family cooked meal somewhere abroad, that's always fun. Do you have any, what's your emphasis when you go traveling?
Oh, I like to learn new things. So I see historic sites and take architectural tours and other kinds of tours and museums and ghost and crime tours. I'm big on ghost and crime tours because the crimes
Wait,
people
together? Like
well,
criminal
no,
ghosts?
but I mean, like, sort of, whatever. There's a little bleed over, if you'll excuse the
Mm.
pun, but they tend to weave in interesting, like, characters from that local place's history, and so you get kind of a sense of society there, what it was like. Like, I wouldn't have learned about the neighborhood in Sydney that was notorious for crime, probably had one of the most dangerous streets in the world at the time if I hadn't gone on a crime tour in Sydney. So I go to learn and have new experiences. That's my
I can see
emphasis. I will eat though. Like I will eat lots of things while I'm there.
Yeah, I'm all down for it. I had a friend, it was a neighbor's kid, and he would, in the US, he would only eat from Wendy's or McDonald's, period. That was it.
Hmm.
Autistic, so that's, partly why. But
Mhm.
when he traveled, he would eat crazy things. Like the one time he calls his mom from Australia, of all places, in the outback, he goes, "Ma, I'm eating grubs." And he meant it. He was eating big, giant, fat, gooey bugs. And
Oh
loved
God.
it. And so he's been to like the Great Wall of China. He's been all over the place, and he'll eat absolutely anything crazy until, this is autism again, until he sees a fast food restaurant, and then that's it. That's where he eats the rest of the trip. But
Oh, okay. Well, did you like get worse at traveling during the pandemic? Did you forget how, or did it come back to you? Is it like riding a bike?
that's a good question. I think my travel changed before and after the pandemic. I think the way that I traveled changed before and after the pandemic. I got even like I thought of myself as a rather sparse person. Like I didn't bring a lot of things. I think I brought even less things after the pandemic. But I also I made sure that I could have room for things that I needed to. One thing that we always do when we travel, humans of Earth, is we pack exactly the most possible we can fit into a bag. And I found that you almost invariably bring something home, not necessarily a gift for the kids or whatever, but something makes the trip back. And so I tried to find, a way to keep a little bit more space in my bag for that. I also, this one for sure, and this could be a male perspective, this could be a gender clothing choice thing, far fewer footwears. Like I just don't care. Like I will wear one pair, or if at the absolute most I might have two if I have to wear a nice outfit somewhere.
I'll have one nice pair if we're going to dinner or something, because you probably are if you're going for work or if you're speaking at a conference or going to a conference, you want something. But when I travel in boots if it's winter or sneakers if it's not. And so that way I've got those to wear the rest of the time. You do not want to find out that the company just planned an outing and you're all going hiking and you have nothing but like your strappy sandals.
Cody was
Plan
talking
ahead.
about getting his head shaved or beard trimmed by a local barber wherever I go. That takes me back to I was in Bogota, Colombia, and there was what they were calling a gentleman's haircutting place, and I was like, "Whoa, what does that possibly mean?" And we were going there. It just meant that it was like their perception of what men would want, which was like you get a little neck and shoulder massage ahead of time. There was a steam area, and then you'd go and get the cut and shave, and they would pour liquor for you as well. So you'd have like a really nice bourbon or a
I bet
tequila.
you were kind of disappointed though. You were thinking it was something different, like a
I thought
Starbucks latte in Idiocracy.
yes, I thought that might be a idiocracy Starbucks establishment. I was wrong, but no, I think that I like that idea because again, you get to talk to locals, you get to understand things. That's the thing I most worry about when I travel is that I'm not going to have even a few sentences with someone who's not there just for tourism. You know what I mean? Like in Istanbul, I didn't have any really good human interactions of any good kind. Other places I've been, I got to really get a sense of what's going on in the with the hoi polloi, and it was much more fun. I had a much better time.
I don't talk to randoms though here at home. Why would I expect other people to talk to me?
Oh,
Hello,
random.
sir, person who just lives here. Will you tell me about your life? Thank
What do you
you.
get for dinner normally? That's the other thing I'll do. Is I grill them on the weirdest questions, but
That
sometimes
sounds like you.
sometimes people want to share.
I
All
don't
right,
know. I
so
mean,
as
I'll
this
chat
is
with people who we encounter. I just don't like seek out regular people that are just trying to drink their coffee and read their book.
Hello, complete stranger. Tell me some
Yeah,
things.
I don't do
I
that.
get you. I get you. All right. So tell me a little bit, and then we got to wrap it up. But tell me a little bit about. Is there? Let's see. What's this? Destiny Simple Me. The Bahamas has a really cool tourism idea where they pair you with locals for international.
I
See,
love it.
see, I'm
Intentional
into it.
connection.
I like that.
Love it. Unless that's a euphemism for something, and then I cannot approve.
Oh well,
Intentional
there is that.
connection.
Right? Hey, it's Nikki.
Hi, Nikki.
Are there places or areas that? Well, I don't know. You can't really trash any place, right? All right. In planning to go somewhere, I'll ask
Yeah.
my question a different way. In planning to go somewhere, how many preconceived notions do you think you carry with you, and how often does it change dramatically? Like you went to, I'm not going to remember the name of the place.
Montenegro?
Montenegro. Madagascar is all I had in my head. You went to Montenegro. I mean, what was your preconceived notion?
I didn't know a thing about it. And it was a while before I decided to go because it's actually pretty close to like Serbia and some other places that all we ever hear is like the steady stream of news about bad things that happen in that part of the world. So it wasn't like a place I thought I needed to go. But the organizers of this really cool conference over there, Spark.me, they had reached out a couple times and sent photos, like really giving the hard sell. And I eventually did go, and I was surprised at how beautiful it was. I had no idea. So as far as preconceived notions go, I don't think I had any idea what to expect exactly, but I wasn't expecting much, I guess. I'll say that. And it was beautiful. So the landscape is beautiful. The people there aren't necessarily like thrilled to have tourists there. It's hard to, I can't, that's like a generalization, but some of the people that I encountered definitely were like annoyed. But so you would get your service or whatever, but some people, if you weren't like at a resort or something, were pretty annoyed for reasons that couldn't have been anything to do with me personally because they didn't know me. So I have to assume it's just because I was a tourist, probably. So there was a little bit of that. So depending on where you're going, I mean, I'm pretty laid back, so it's fine. I'm not like a call the manager type ever. So so I get along about anywhere. I actually did this exercise in graduate school where they were testing us to see how we would assimilate in different cultures. And they like put us in different rooms and gave us a whole set of instructions and cultural background and stuff, and then had us like intermingle. And the people afterwards, if you got like a sticker from the other side saying kind of like that you could hang with them, then that was passing for the exercise. And I passed. But the reason that I passed was because the room I went into, their culture was different, and I observed differences, and I just kind of went with it. Like, oh, I guess this is how they do here. The men speak first, or the women talk about this, or something. Like, I don't know. Even if I didn't love it, I was like, I'm a visitor here. I'm just going to kind of observe and learn. And so I think that same mindset that got me through the exercise gets me through international travel to places where my expectations are different than what I encounter. So.
Yeah. I'll tell you the place that I was really smacked upside the head with something different was Latvia. It was because their former Soviet bloc place, they were working on, asserting who they were as an independent nation, but they absolutely still had like so much Soviet influence. One was that like a lion's share of buildings were all painted the exact same yellow, and you just got the sense that it was like, it's the paint, comrade. And the other thing that happened there a lot was your safety, your personal safety was your own to handle. Like the US, you never realize how many bumper rails are on everything in the US until you're there. I was at a rooftop party, and it was legitimately just on the top of the roof of a place. And I was like, oh, and I realized I could just fall off this roof and die. Like it was not an especially made for rooftop parties kind of building. And I went, oh, I think I'll get off this roof because I don't know. Like
stay right in the middle.
Given there's no rails, well, middle could be bad too, right? Like you got to be like where there's a structural element, so when it collapses,
that's true.
Not. So
yeah, but that's true. Whatever's happening with the edges, like the roof itself could always be week.
Well, yes, but there are roofs that are constructed because they're planning to have parties.
Oh, I
And then there
see.
are roofs where a lot of people are on them, and I
Got
was
it.
on the latter, not the former. So I was just like, I don't think this was made for this function. So
I will say that now that we kind of like the world has started traveling again, I do
Yeah.
think there's benefit in saying yes to those opportunities when they come up. Like I wouldn't say no out of fear of the unknown, because it can be scary if you haven't been to a place.
Sure.
And especially if you're going alone, because a lot of times for business you don't have a plus one, your whole company's not going, it's just you. So I find that the payoff of going and the experiences I have always outweigh any inconvenience or anxiety I might have felt about it early on.
I think so too. I think there's always something to learn if you're in that mode. And I think that you can always make the best of anywhere, which is always nice too. I mean, look, we just had a whole bunch of people visit beautiful Burlington, Massachusetts for this event. I kept saying for a lot of people, it was their first time in the States. And I was like, I feel so bad right now. Like, even if you go down the street to Boston, you're not exactly like, if I wanted to show the US, I would not show Boston as the US.
I mean, I don't know. It's the cradle of liberty.
See Elizabeth, she's going to run to a meeting. We got to go too. So it is the cradle of liberty. Estonia, Latvia was a really different cultural experience. Yeah, I haven't been to Estonia yet, but some of my colleagues have been fairly recently, and they said that it was a very interesting place to be. They said it's not the, whatever you think it is, it's not that. So, all right.
I'm going to go to Iceland.
Oh, Iceland. I went there. I was shanghaied there. Iceland Air was like, oh, I don't know. There was some kind of a problem with the airplane. Guess you'll have to stay one extra night. And I was like, I feel like this is their tourism industry. And I asked everybody, I said on Twitter, I was like, oh, quick, I'm in Iceland accidentally for 14 hours. What do I do? And every single person said, go to the Blue Lagoon. You go to the Blue Lagoon. It's amazing. It's this beautiful outdoor thing. It's got this, it's natural heat springs kind of a place. So you're surrounded by ice cold snow and lava and things like this. It looks like some crazy movie. And it looks like everything is light blue and white in the bottom, like a steamy hot swimming pool. The water is super warm, like not almost hot tub temperature, but hotter than a swimming pool. And it is either families or couples. So it looks weird. There's a fat white American just by himself. Hello, strangers. I'll just awkwardly.
You love talking to strangers. Hey, what's your favorite family meal?
Not in a swimming pool. All right, I'm hitting this button.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Who should I make the person of the day? Who should I make? Well, I'm going to do it. Chloe gave me a nice gift, so it's going to be Chloe.
That's bribery. That's blatant bribery.
Could have been Carl.
I didn't get it.
Could do worse than being trapped at the Blue Lagoon. No question. I will say, oh my gosh, the hotel food I just ate the hotel food because Iceland Air put us up in their Iceland Air hotel. So,
so not good.
I could have gone to find a slightly better choice of food.
You really are a terrible traveler.
It's our local city pool. It feels really warm.
Stop it.
Kids. Oh my God.
Cody's from Kentucky, everyone.
He is. All right. We're not asking any backpack questions today. I will say good luck on your trip. I hope everything works out super well. Thank you so much.
It's going to be muy bueno.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I will say is that I had guns pulled on me by the Swedish government, myself and Christopher Penn. True story. And here's what I did, why I earned assault rifles pulled on us.
It's not surprising.
True story.
Knowing you.
True story.
I'm surprised you got